Hey, welcome to On the Chain. This is Jeff. I will be your host for this evening. Today, we're going to be talking about the big win, huge win for Ripple XRP versus the SEC, taking on the big Goliath in the space. But you know what? The SEC isn't sitting back, they're not silent. Celsius recently issuing a big warning to investors. We're going to get into what that means to the current investors, future investors. What's the direction that Celsius is taking, and how does that impact the crypto space at large? Because who is next? And you know what? Elon Musk once again thumbing his nose at the SEC, ignoring the SEC. Maybe some of these big guys out there should be taking a page out of the Elon Musk notebook. So, I think that is something that we need to dig into today. So don't forget about that big win for Ripple XRP versus the SEC. What kind of topics are we going to get into tonight? Well, we've got some tweets from John Deaton, the man, the myth, the legend in the XRP community. We've got some tweets from Alex Mashinsky, a blog from Celsius. We're going to dig into some things that have been going on with the SEC, Elon Musk, and all those other things. So sit back, grab a beer, get ready, because we are going to kick this thing off right about now.
Welcome to On the Chain.
Welcome to On the Chain. So welcome. It's great to see everybody on. I couldn't sit back. I couldn't not say anything. Had to work. Got tied up doing some work things last night. Lots going on over here in this part of the world, and got a lot going on the rest of this week as well. But man, it's great to see everybody on here. And man, this is a crazy, crazy week. So I guess it is morning in some places, but evening in others. But still a crazy week. So what is up to everybody over there in Australia? What is up to everybody late night, early morning over in Europe, and anybody that tunes in and listens to us on the West Coast? I guess it's just early evening. So you guys are just getting out of work, doing something like that. But I want to kick this thing off because we're going to dive in, like Chip says, we're going to dive into the shallow end head first urgently, because there's some things that we need to dig into. And one of those things happens to be these activities, these actions, something that is obviously going on from, or should we say, by the SEC. For if it wasn't for the SEC action, maybe we wouldn't be having this conversation tonight, because there wouldn't be a lot to talk about. Maybe there would be clarity. Maybe there would be some semblance of sanity in the world, some semblance of sanity all over the place. So, man, we got to get into this thing. We got Metkiss all the way from Canada. Not sure where that Canada is, but XRP Panic is always asking about the salt from the Himalayas, because the salt from the Himalayas is amazing, especially if you're out chasing Yetis in the Himalayas. Then that salt find is even more amazing than that. So just outstanding stuff. Forgot to share my screen, so you guys have no idea what we're looking at. I don't have any audio to share, but we're going to dig into this tweet. We even have a cool tweet from Ron Hammond as well, and we're going to get into that because there's some things that are happening in the space, in and around the space, and Congress, you know what? They're not taking the opportunities to study, to truly understand what's going on in the crypto space. Very few of them are actually active in the crypto space and trying to pass some nice bills, some nice, beautiful regulatory clarity in this space. And then the others, I don't know, man, they're just hopelessly lost. What's up, Johnny, all the way from New Zealand? Man, one place I want to travel to is New Zealand. It's got to be amazing over there. Really amazing. Now, watching this show from Australia, something called The Last Hotel or something hotel. I don't know. It's crazy. People are so nutty. Forget what it's called. But anyhow, so John Deaton on Ripple, XRP, and the SEC. So I love this comment that he put up here. I think it's really spot on. This was all yesterday. So where were we yesterday? We weren't talking about this yesterday, but we're talking about it tonight, which is great. And everybody, including Joshua, has had it enough, had it up to here with the SEC. Just enough is enough with Gary. Gary, go home. Well, I guess you're home. Maybe stop broadcasting from home. Just shut the door and call it a night. We don't want to. We don't want to hear from you anymore. Too much. Too much. Too much. All right. So John Deaton. So he says this is not just a win for Ripple and the XRP holders, but for the entire judicial system. I guess I put the entire in there because he's saying, but for the judicial system. Why? Because after the March 2021 hearing, John Deaton said, I said we were lucky to get Judge Nepern. Some of you disagree, but I still believe it. The SEC is now officially in a hurt locker. So, what exactly is he referencing? And, it's great to see some of the commentary that comes out, because people really love what John Deaton's doing. And John Deaton has really become a rock star within the XRP world. I mean, unbelievable. People are running around. They're going to want his autograph. They're going to want his NFT when it comes out. Maybe we can get in a limited edition, officially signed John Deaton NFT. How cool would that be? It'd be, amazing, right? So the case closes with a big victory for the XRP community against the SEC, and there's going to be parades. John Deaton is going to go down in the history books as the man that saved crypto. He saved the day. So anyhow, but James Filan, so he started out here. This was again yesterday, and people wanted to get some commentary on this. Breaking, the court has denied the SEC's motion for reconsideration of the DPP ruling and granted the SEC's request for clarification of that ruling. Now, as we get into it, James Filan's going to explain it a little bit. So the SEC has identified no intervening change of controlling law or any other controlling decisions unaddressed by the court's January 13, 2022 order. The SEC's assertion that the speech was intended to communicate corporation finance's approach to regulating digital asset offerings is inconsistent with the SEC's and Hinman's previous position that the speech was intended to and did reflect his personal views. Now, this is really, really a major issue because the way that the SEC always comes out and tries to spin things, and they try to spin things as personal opinion, although they are invited to and they're speaking on behalf of the SEC, and they even mention that in name, but yet they come out and they say, well, that was personal content. That was personal view. That was personal opinion. Well, you know what? That isn't going to fly in this case. Now, maybe as the chair, you can get away with it because maybe there's some backroom dealings that are going on there. But in this case, they really have to be very succinct in this perspective because major issue if they can keep getting away with it. But so finally goes on, the SEC seeks to have it both ways. That's right. But the speech was either intended to reflect agency policy or it wasn't. Having insisted that it reflected Hinman's personal views, the SEC cannot now reject its own position. So this is, as finally saying, really a big win for Ripple. The SEC now has 14 days to file an objection to this decision. Now, think about all the times that the SEC has thumbed their nose at the request of the judge. So it gets to a point where you say, you know what, it's sickening to see the lack of respect for the judicial system by another government agency. And now the SEC is a government agency. The SEC is made up of government employees that are paid for with taxpayer dollars. They're not royalty. They're not getting paid through private means. They're getting paid on the taxpayer dime. So for them to then thumb their nose at the judicial system for a judge in a case that they brought the case. This is just, it's so massive to really see them, kind of being put in their place. I'm loving it. It's really, really great. And then we see some other commentary here, and then we're going to get some Jeremy Hogan feedback on this as well. It's amazing. I mean, you dig into Twitter, and it's there. It can be so educational. Obviously, you have to always look at everything a little bit with jaded eyes to not be sucked into content that might be a little misleading or otherwise. And so you kind of understand the deliberative nature of what you're reading. But so crypto was this Crypto Insight UK. Don't know why that took so long, but Crypto Insight UK. So he said, I'm about to make my content on this, but don't want to mislead. Ultimately, is this about the Hinman emails and whether his speech was his opinion or that of the finance division or the SEC specifically? And the judge has rules that it's his opinion essentially. So let's see. Basically, yes, she's saying that there were no SEC deliberations taking place in the emails because everyone was just discussing Hinman's own personal opinion. And so no deliberative process privilege to apply. She didn't allow them to back out of the narrative that they wove. And what a narrative they have woven. I mean, it's crazy, right? So you get into this interesting. I think I finally understand the principle behind how law works by locking in arguments sequentially as fact. Guilty parties will eventually be shown unlawful and to be lying because often eventually becomes impossible to produce final evidence for a lie. I mean, it really, people are really digging into this thing, right? Because it's so crazy to see what the SEC has actually done with all of this. So I don't see a deadline. Krypton is saying, I don't see a deadline. They have to ask for additional redactions. Did I miss it? James is saying, no deadline set. Much to do before then. Look at my pinned tweet on DPP and possible appeal to the Second Circuit. So it looks like, we see some outcome. We see that there's going to be some continuation, maybe going to another court. So we'll see. We'll see. We'll see what goes on with all of this. 14 days to file an objection to district court to district judge Torres, essentially an appeal. We still have a ways to go. So imagine, they get to appeal the process, but man, I like this entire situation. It kind of goes back and forth. But the thing is that the more the lies get out there, the more, there's a chance that they will be tripping up on themselves. And these are the types of things that we're beginning to see is that they're tripping up on themselves. I mean, we dig into this and it's truly, truly, amazing to see, how great it is when the SEC is tripping up on this nonsense. But so here we go. So then John Deaton goes on and he puts out another tweet here and he says, I was wrong before when I said there were 52 drafts of the Hinman speech. The judge writes, as evidenced by the 68 drafts and associated commentary in the SEC's privileged logs. So John says 68 drafts with lots of commentary. There's strong chance XRP was mentioned. So then, this is great. So John goes on. Number 2, Judge Knepern added a bulletproof section for any appeal to the Second Circuit. She could have flat out denied the motion for reconsideration pursuant to Rule 6.3. Can't raise new arguments you didn't the first time. Instead, she recognized how important the DPP doctrine is. Right there, circled it. She didn't just summarily deny the motion, but analyze the SEC's substantive DPP argument and then rejected it. Rejected. How do you like that? Just rejected. John says, I love it. What she did was take away any argument on appeal based on how important DPP is and that this judge didn't consider it like she should. Can you say brilliant? 3, she called out the SEC for its inconsistent positions related to the speech. She said, you don't get to change your position. I love this. You don't get to change your position just because you didn't like the court's conclusion, which is what the SEC tries to do. How do you like that? We're just going to change our position. That's it. And we didn't like what you said. Our position just shifted. So thank you very much. Uh, she highlighted the inconsistency by drawing specific attention to Hinman's under oath testimony. She threw a bone to the SEC by clarifying the SEC should seek leave to redact those communication and from its production that implicates other separate agency deliberations, not deliberations about the content of the speech. Man, I mean, it's really amazing. Again, trying to salvage or save the SEC a little bit. The SEC just seems to be doing such a bad job across the board. That's why we're going to get into some of these other things. And you look, they just seem to have so much animosity towards the people. Judge Deaton, on the other hand, this is good because it also makes this order bulletproof. Any appellate court will see the judge is honoring all privilege under the law. There is no way, in my opinion, Judge Torres or the Second Court Circuit disturbs Judge Netburn's ruling. And then he says, on the other hand, what exactly does separate agency deliberations mean? We would know what she means if we had access to comment 12 on page 6. In other words, she gave a specific example of what can be redacted by the SEC. So imagine also that the SEC decided to basically cross out everything. They blacked out pretty much all of the text. If you remember when John Dean did that one interview and he pulled up the page and the whole thing was blacked out. So SEC is not allowed to redact agency staff communication about edits to the speech, and the edits themselves can't be redacted. The judge will review the proposed redactions if XRP was referenced in the 68 drafts or in the commentary. So, man, it's really impressive. There's so much going on. It's mind-boggling. It's actually mind-numbing. I want to give a quick shout out here to Very Easy Hydroponics Alan. He said, just retired from my job today, guys. Thanks for all your hard work. I wanted to give you guys a little something to help out. And appreciate you, Alan. You're amazing. Congrats on retiring. Another one of my buddies came by tonight, and he too said that he's retiring. So, man, there must be something in the air today that everybody is just decided to retire and move on with bigger and better things. So bigger and better for you, Alan. Sounds like you got some big plans ahead of you. And then we got Devon here saying, makes you wonder how come the SEC win any cases if they're this bad? Must be just fear of that gives them their wins. And many times it's just the money that's on the table. And, they're just pouring, millions. It's not their money. What do they care? Maybe they got some budget, but it's government money. And in many cases, sometimes it's very clear that, that the SEC has jurisdiction, but it's also very clear that the entity that they're suing is in the wrong. And then they just have to prove it, but they bring a case. I would think, I mean, now it does make you want to go back and start reviewing all of them and see, did people back down because of money? Did they come to settlement, or were some of the cases that the SEC brought were they just slam dunk cases? I don't know. But the SEC does lose, except they push their losses to the back section somewhere on their website, and it's hard to find. But they promote their big case. They thought, I bet, as Gary's in there, he's like, this is gonna be a shoe-in. This is a slam dunk. I'm still not convinced though that Jay Clayton anticipated a victory on behalf of the SEC. I really, it really would be interesting, to get Jay Clayton commentary, on crypto at this point and really what this case represents. I mean, and to really understand the why. It's like, again, we brought this up the other night. Why did Jay Clayton drop the lawsuit against Ripple, one of the major deciding cases in crypto history, potentially the major deciding case in crypto history? Why, when he was resigning? Why not see it all the way through? Was it a landmine, for the next chair that was going to take over to step in some deep poop here to say, hey, this case, it's going to be a mess for the SEC. And let's see Will the SEC try to settle it, or are they going to fight it all the way through? What kind of, what kind of outcome is there going to be? Did Jay Clayton have some, outside, influence? Was there some nefarious purpose behind it against crypto, or was it more in favor of crypto? Was it because Congress was dragging their feet? We talked about this with Mickle the other night. Was Congress dragging their feet on this thing? I mean, it's so crazy to really get into this and try to, figure it out. James is saying SEC said they want a jury trial. That would be the greatest show. It'd be unbelievable, right? So Josh is saying, question, if Ripple wins, what will be the next snare? Will they outlaw? It just seems like there's no end. There is no end. Let's look at why Celsius is making some massive changes and warning their customers on why they're doing what they're doing, because of the regulatory Wild West, because of the regulation that isn't true regulation. Why are crypto exchanges in the crosshairs of the SEC? Because we know that that's what's next. The SEC is library. 4 years they've been tying them up. Now, does the SEC have jurisdiction over every one of these situations, or does the jurisdiction fall to the CFTC in this situation? Now, the SEC, in my opinion, is far overzealous, far overreaching, but it's not just in this case, because we've seen how they've attacked the retail space. They come out and mention and state over and over that they're there on behalf of retail investors to try and protect them from the big bad corporate Goliath. But in fact, is it the big corporate that's the evil party here, that's trying to build and develop in the space, or is it the SEC overreach? Which one is negatively reacting and impacting the space? Because I look at some of these exchanges that are in the crypto space, and they're building and growing and finding new ways for product and expanding in this space, and super, super positive. And then you see the exact opposite from the SEC. I mean, this is just like, more fuel for the fire. Every one of these projects that they go after is just more fodder. It's really, really crazy. I mean, it's beyond crazy. I mean, it's getting sickening. It really is getting sickening. It's the Wild West. And, the problem is that Gary Gensler has nominated himself and badged himself sheriff of the land. Now, that has all sorts of issue written all over it, right? So, he wants to be the sheriff, and that can't happen. There's just too much, too much. So that's why, we got to move in. We got to look at, some of the other things. Is it just on the side of the SEC just singling out Ripple and XRP when we know they've gone after Library? We know they're getting ready to come after the exchanges. And what is going on with Celsius? What did they do to Celsius? What did they do to Elon Musk? Maybe that's even more interesting to start out with, mainly because, this is something that's outside of crypto, but is just as crazy in terms of what they're doing, and who's in the right, who's in the wrong. Is the SEC in a justified position in any situation? So if we look at this and we look at, okay, Elon Musk thumbs his nose at the SEC again with the Twitter stake. So what happens? Elon Musk, buys 9.2% stake in Twitter. He then also thumbs his nose at the board because they say, come on to the board. We have a board seat for you. It's going to be awesome. You can hang out and talk and do all these cool things. And then at the end of the day, we do nothing. So then Elon Musk said, you know what? Good luck. Done. I'm not going to be on the board. Forget about it. I was just kidding. If he joined the board, he would have been limited to the stake that he could have bought to like 14% or something like that. So in this case, Elon Musk's like, the heck with it. But look at this. So he fails to disclose within the time limit. I guess he needed a 10-day window, but he took 20 days to disclose. And meanwhile, after he bought the major share of Twitter, he starts putting out some tweets, and it's some interesting Twitter banter. You know what the fine is? So typically it's around $100,000. Now, to get the kind of feedback and the emotional response that Elon Musk got out of the SEC, maybe that 100,000 was worth it. You're talking about like, pocket change. So, he gets 9.2% stake. The shares go up around 28% since, Twitter then, still fell back a little bit. But, it looks like he started accumulating back in March. So it's a slow accumulation. And then he starts putting out great tweets like this one: free speech is essential to a functioning democracy. Do you believe Twitter rigorously adheres to this principle? Obviously, we know what the response is. But the thing is, he doesn't report. SEC disclosure punishments are typically around 100,000. They get Elon Musk's net worth around 300 billion. So small amount. Musk's intention with his large stake are unclear. In late January, conservative Dinesh D'Souza was convicted of campaign finance fraud back in 2014, but he tagged Musk in a tweet telling him that he can dramatically change the political cultural landscape. And this finance fraud, it was a small amount of money, and he was the only one really targeted and singled out for it. It was at a period of time when the entities were coming after conservative platforms. So Musk versus the SEC. We know that he's had this multiple times, a history of thumbing his nose at the SEC, and maybe for the better, right? So now we have Ripple taking on this behemoth, right? We have Ripple going after taking on this case that the SEC went after them on. We got Musk saying to the SEC, you know what? Forget you guys, whatever. Moving on. you know um and then we see what it's all about, because if you remember, Ripple was also sued by some investor that said they lost like $500, some ridiculous lawsuit by a handful of people that held XRP for like 24 to 48 hours, maybe 72 hours, a short hold on the XRP, and then they claim they lost all this money. And for some reason, based on that, they filed a grievance against Ripple, which subsequently they lost. Ripple won. So Elon Musk sued by investor over delayed Twitter filing. He says that Musk saved about 143 million by staying quiet. And this is what the SEC is really, responsive to, saying, hey, you responded late and you didn't disclose. So this guy that's suing him is saying, you know what? He lost money by selling shares of Twitter at artificially deflated prices. Well, why did you sell? Why did you all of a sudden sell? What was the impetus that made this guy sell? Does anybody have any, credibility to take responsibility for their own actions anymore? So here Musk disclosed his filing on April 4th that he bought shares representing 9.2, but it was obviously a little later, but then the shares rose. But Rosella said in the lawsuit that Musk had an obligation mandated by the SEC to disclose his stake within 10 days, which he didn't. Then he's going to pass whatever, he has to pay his fine. I don't, who knows where it's going to end, but it's kind of crazy. People are looking for a lawsuit. They're lawsuit happy. They're trying to find ways, and maybe this guy figures, hey, you know what? I've got a way to sue and win some big stakes here. I don't know. And then you get in here, Elon Musk's SEC filings reserve the right to buy a larger stake in Twitter, and that came out yesterday. So, they were trying to limit his stake, but based on all the filings that he made, the forms that he filled out, and maybe there was a little bit of orchestration, things that he had to do before actually submitting the filing. I wonder, are they really going to think about? Are they contemplating what's going on? I don't know. I mean, it's so impressive to kind of see what is going on here. So, all right, what else we got? We've got like uh, so here we go. Elon, he loves getting the attention, loves doing that stuff. I like this. Van life biker. Accountability is no longer a word of today. There's zero accountability, as we're also seeing from the current administration, pointing their fingers at everybody but themselves, but that's kind of a trend within the political sphere. So now Celsius, man, what is going on with Celsius? And where did the tweet go? We got to get into this because why now one of the things that's happening here, and it's really kind of detrimental a little bit to what we're seeing in this space. And I bet the SEC is really flipping over, doing backflips on this one, probably, as is Elizabeth Warren and Janet Yellen and the Shermanator Brad Sherman and those that filed the executive order, and they're doing backflips. They're so excited. They're so excited by this, because Alex Mashinsky announced today, and we can get into the blog, that one, Celsius is launching a custody solution for U.S. users, introducing some changes to the service. What does that mean? The industry, as we know, is going through another paradigm shift, as previously acknowledged. Now, Celsius has been working with different regulators around the world. They want to stay compliant with regulatory guidance, which unfortunately, there is no regulatory guidance in the US. So here he said there'll be changes to the way our earned product will work for users based in the US. Now, this is where we're starting to see a major diversion of the people in power to separate the average Americans from those that could be, considered to be wealthy, mainly many of those in Congress. But then, so basically separating you from your money, separating you from opportunities. So what does this is like the worst, when you see something like this happening, hopefully it's short lived. Hopefully there's some coming back from this. But, to me, this is an overall. So here's the issue, that we have right now. We have the US going through in huge, massive, skyrocketing inflation, interest rates going up, cost of gas going up, cost of goods going up, cost of food going up. Did I say interest rates going up, mortgage rates going up, loan rates going up, cost of everything going up, breakdown in supply chain, insanity in the streets, government targeting crypto, SEC targeting crypto. But now think about this major shift. Now that all of a sudden interest rates are going up. So does that mean that banks are going to start increasing interest rates to savings accounts? Now, what was happening with Celsius is that people are fleeing traditional investment because banks paying at 0.005% or 0.05%, on your money isn't enough to make it worthwhile to get interest in the bank. Meanwhile, on Celsius and other platforms, you're earning pretty big percentages, like 4%, 5%, 6%, 8%, up to 10% in many situations. So now, are we starting to see the lobbyists within Washington say, hey, you know what? You guys got to start doing something. But then that means that there's some regulatory changes, maybe the SEC, which we know that the SEC has come after Celsius. We know that there's some action on the horizon. We know that the SEC is coming after the exchanges. So what does this mean? What does this mean for Celsius right now? So they have this new custody service for those in the US. If you're outside the US, you don't have to listen to anything we're talking about because you're all good. But starting April 15th, which is in a couple days here, then this is what's going to happen. So we know that there's some again, they're working closely with regulators around the world, so they need to stay compliant. Celsius has an earn product where you get to earn percentages off of your assets that you're holding there. All coins transferred to Celsius by users in the US prior to April 15th will continue to earn rewards. Hopefully that goes on for a while. Those existing coins will continue to earn rewards for as long as they remain in the earn accounts. New transfers made by non-accredited investors in the United States will be held in their new custody accounts. And guess what? Will not earn rewards. Non-accredited investors can continue to swap, borrow, and transfer within their custody accounts. What does that mean? That means if you're an accredited investor, you can continue earning interest on your interest-bearing accounts in Celsius. What does being an accredited investor mean? That means that you need to have a net worth of $1 million or more. That is excluding your primary residence. So if you own your primary residence free and clear and it's worth $1 million, exclude that from your net worth for this particular exercise. So you need $1 million in net worth plus, as an individual, you need to have earned $200,000 for the past 2 years and a good reason or good chance that you will continue to be earning over $200,000 into the current year. Now, for joint filings, married couples, that's $300,000. So what have they just accomplished through this? What they have just accomplished is that you as an individual, as an average American, average tax-paying citizen, cannot earn interest rates from Celsius on your crypto assets if you're new. If you have existing holdings, well, you can continue keeping them there. You'll continue gaining your interest. Now, this is obviously problematic on many different levels. Now, once again, those that could be considered to be wealthy are now beneficiaries of policy that will now negatively impact anyone who wants to try to get ahead. So being an accredited investor allows you to invest pre-IPO. If you're not a non-accredited investor, you cannot invest pre-IPO. If you're a non-accredited investor, you buy retail like everybody else, and you get to buy post-IPO. You get to buy at the higher rates. You don't get the benefit. You don't get certain investment vehicles are not available to you. Now, traditional banking are we going to start seeing an increase in interest rates from commercial banking because we're starting to see a decrease in competition coming from entities like Celsius? Now, we look at the DeFi space, as a major player to allow people to stake and earn interest on their money. Why not? How is that risky? What does that do? This is kind of crazy. So, man, I mean, to me, it's a detrimental impact on individuals, and that's it. And unfortunately, Celsius has to abide by regulatory, policy, guidance, whatever. But right now in the U.S., we've got no regulatory clarity, nothing, zero, zilch. So that is definitely, problematic on multiple levels. And you heard it here first. Well, you probably read it somewhere else, but we can say that you heard it here first. But that's it. I mean, so we've got, this is where, right now, and we brought this up the other night, we've said it multiple times, the crypto space and the crypto investors have become one of the largest leading voting blocks ever. Now, the thing is it needs to coalesce into a voting block cohesive power. Now, what that means is that it has to also then utilize that power very effectively, very succinctly. We want to make sure that if we're going to use that power. We can't risk or jeopardize that power by by detrimentally voting for or against someone that doesn't necessarily support the long-term, short-term, or midterm objectives that would benefit the crypto space. But that's going to take a little bit of time getting together. I don't think it's quite there yet, but man, it is getting there. People are getting upset. People are definitely getting upset. So that's it. Here's where we sit. You guys are really amazing. Love to see everybody coming on here. Commentary in this space, unbelievable. Leave some comments. If you're brand new here, hit the subscribe button. That's what I've got for tonight. We got the best and the brightest in all of crypto. YouTube, gather here on the chain. Look forward to seeing you guys back on the next one. This is Jeff. Again, on the chain. I will see you guys on the next one. I am out of here.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.